Picture this: the ship's horn bellows, champagne glasses clink, and thousands of passengers gather along the rails as the shoreline slips into the distance. For many, this moment feels like stepping into paradise. But here's the harsh truth: not every port delivers the dream you're sold. Some destinations are breathtaking, others are crowded, disappointing, or even downright stressful. That's why today we're ranking every major cruise destination in the world, from worst to best. By the end, you'll know exactly which ports are worth stepping off the ship for, and which ones are better spent enjoying an empty pool on board. And number one, it's a place so beautiful that even seasoned travelers admit they cried watching it disappear over the horizon. Let's start at the bottom. Tier 4. Destinations to avoid. Number 13. Nassau, Bahamas. Nassau is one of the most visited cruise ports in the world, but also one of the most polarizing. For first-time cruisers, the pastel-colored buildings and the lure of Atlantis Resort promise a Caribbean fantasy. But step beyond the pier and the dream starts to crack. Shops line the streets selling the same diamonds, t-shirts, and rum cakes you'll see in every port. Taxi drivers shout offers, vendors push hair braiding, and aggressive pitches leave many passengers uncomfortable. On travel forums, Nassau is often described as chaotic and exhausting. One cruiser put it bluntly, "I'd rather stay on the ship than fight through Nassau again." That doesn't mean it's all bad. Atlantis has a water park and aquarium that wow kids, and Junkanoo Beach is within walking distance. But seasoned travelers often recommend Nassau only if you're prepared for crowds and sales pressure. Otherwise, this port ranks low on our list because it's the very definition of overhyped. Number 12. Freeport, Bahamas. If Nassau feels like a tourist trap, Freeport feels industrial. Literally. The moment you step off the gangway, you're greeted by warehouses, shipping containers, and oil tanks in the distance. Passengers expecting white sand beaches and turquoise water are stunned to find themselves in what feels like a cargo yard. Yes, there are excursions to Lucaya Beach or Garden of the Groves, but most require a pricey shuttle or taxi ride. One Carnival passenger summed it up on Reddit: "We paid $40 each just to get to a beach that was okay at best. Never again." Cruisers often joke that Freeport is the kind of port where staying on board becomes the real excursion. You'll find a quiet ship, empty pools, and no lines at the buffet, arguably a better vacation than fighting through Freeport's uninspired offerings. That's why it earns a solid spot on the Avoid tier. Number 11. Belize City, Main Port. Belize is a paradox. Its jungles, Mayan ruins, and coral reefs are stunning, yet Belize City, where ships tender passengers ashore, is notorious for crime and scams. Guides constantly warn travelers not to wander alone. The tender ride alone eats up 20 to 30 minutes each way, leaving less time for exploring. And unless you've booked an excursion, the port area offers little more than shops and persistent taxi drivers. Travel boards are filled with stories like, "The moment we stepped outside the gates, we were hounded. We turned around and went back." That said, book the right excursion. Cave tubing, snorkeling Holchan, or visiting Lamanai ruins, and Belize transforms into magic. The problem is that the barrier to reach that magic is higher than in most ports, which keeps it ranked low overall. Would you risk a questionable port just for a shot at a great excursion, or would you rather stay on the ship and avoid the hassle? Tell us below. Tier 3. Decent but overrated. Number 10. Ensenada. Mexico West Coast cruisers know this stop all too well. Ensenada is a frequent port for short 3- or 4-night sailings out of Los Angeles or San Diego. And while it has its charms, tacos, margaritas, and the famous La Bufadora blowhole, it often feels like filler. Many locals warn visitors about scams or watered-down drinks, while seasoned cruisers call it a one-and-done port. You can grab some authentic food, maybe a $20 massage on the beach, but beyond that, it doesn't stack up to bigger Mexican destinations like Cabo or Cozumel. For first-timers, it's fine. For repeat cruisers, Ensenada becomes more about killing a day than discovering a gem. Number 9. Falmouth, Jamaica. Falmouth is a strange port. Inside the gates, it looks like a manicured shopping village, bright buildings, tourist shops, and a safe zone designed for cruise passengers. But venture beyond and reality hits hard. Jamaica is a country of extremes, stunning waterfalls like Dunn's River Falls and lush jungles, but also aggressive vendors and long excursion rides. Many cruisers say they love Jamaica for the excursions but hate the hassle. One family wrote, "We drove 90 minutes to see waterfalls and spent the rest of the time saying no to vendors." Exhausting. The result is a love-hate relationship. If you stay within the port, it feels fake. If you leave, it can feel overwhelming. That's why Falmouth lands in the overrated category. Number 8. Marseille, France. On paper, Marseille should be a Mediterranean highlight. In reality, many passengers step off the ship, look around, and wonder why they bothered. The port is gritty, crowded, and lacks the charm you expect from France. The saving grace is the excursions. Aix-en-Provence, Cassis, or Avignon are gorgeous, but they require long bus rides. A cruise critic reviewer put it perfectly. Marseille itself was forgettable, but the tour to Cassis was the best day of our trip. So here's the truth. Marseille isn't terrible, but it often feels like a stepping stone to somewhere better. And when you're on limited time, that can be frustrating. Tier 2. Great destinations. Worth it, but not perfect. Number 7. Barcelona, Spain. Barcelona is the heartbeat of Mediterranean cruising, both an embarkation hub and a destination in its own right. Walk down Las Ramblas and you'll find street performers, flower stalls, and cafe tables spilling onto cobblestones. Gaudi's masterpieces like La Sagrada Familia and Park Güell tower over the skyline, pulling millions of visitors each year. But here's the catch. Barcelona is almost too popular. In 2024, protests broke out against over-tourism, with locals begging for fewer ships in port. Pickpockets target distracted tourists. A viral TikTok showed a traveler losing his wallet within 10 minutes of stepping off the shuttle bus. Still, for most cruisers, Barcelona is unforgettable. Whether you're sipping sangria in the Gothic Quarter or watching the Magic Fountain show at night, the city blends culture, food, and spectacle better than almost anywhere else. The trick is knowing the risks and not letting them ruin the magic. Number 6. Cozumel, Mexico. Cozumel is one of those ports that rarely disappoints. Sure, the shopping strip near the pier screams tourist trap, but the island's real beauty is beyond it. Hop a taxi to a private beach club and suddenly you're in turquoise water with waiter service and hammocks swaying in the breeze. Divers call Cozumel one of the best spots in the Western Hemisphere. Coral gardens, sea turtles, and schools of neon fish put this destination at the top of every snorkeler's list. Families rave about Chankanabe Adventure Park, dolphins, zip lines, and tequila tastings all rolled into one. Of course, Cozumel isn't perfect. Hurricane damage sometimes leaves beaches thin, and popular clubs like Mr. Sancho's can feel more spring break than serene getaway. Still, most cruisers walk away calling it the highlight of their trip. Would you rather spend your Cozumel day snorkeling in crystal waters or sipping tequila at a beach club? Drop your answer below. Number 5. Santorini, Greece. Few cruise destinations are as instantly recognizable as Santorini. Whitewashed houses cling to volcanic cliffs, blue-domed churches sparkle in the sun, and the caldera view looks straight out of a postcard. For many, this is the photo that defines their Mediterranean cruise. But Santorini comes at a price, literally and figuratively. Ships must anchor offshore and tender passengers in, creating bottlenecks. Thousands of tourists cram cable cars, donkeys, and narrow streets. Viral photos show lines stretching for hours just to ride the cable car back down. And when 4 or 5 ships arrive at once, forget about serenity. Still, when you finally stand at the edge of Oya at sunset with the sea blazing orange and pink below, all the hassle fades. Santorini is crowded, overrun, and sometimes overwhelming, but it's also so breathtaking that most cruisers say it's absolutely worth it. Number 4. Rome, Civitavecchia, Italy. Technically, Civitavecchia is just a gritty port city. But let's be honest, this ranking isn't about the port, it's about Rome itself. Step into the eternal city and you're walking through thousands of years of history. The Colosseum, the Vatican, the Trevi Fountain. It feels like every corner hides another postcard. Yes, it's a 90-minute bus or train ride each way, and yes, summer heat plus massive crowds can make it exhausting. But many cruisers book their entire trip just for this stop. One traveler wrote, "We were on a Mediterranean cruise, but really it felt like a pilgrimage to Rome." Everything else was a bonus Rome ranks high, not because it's easy, but because it's monumental. For many, it's the kind of stop that makes you pinch yourself, realizing you're standing in the same place where gladiators fought and Michelangelo painted. Tier 1. Must-book legendary destinations. Before we dive in, let's be clear, these aren't just great ports. These are the once-in-a-lifetime stops that transform a cruise from a vacation into a story you'll tell for the rest of your life. If Tier 4 was about avoiding disappointment and Tier 2 was about solid wins, Tier 1 is about magic, the kind that makes people book entire cruises just to see one port. Number 3. Glacier Bay, Alaska. Alaska is unlike anywhere else on Earth, and Glacier Bay is the crown jewel. Imagine sipping hot cocoa on deck while icebergs float past, seals sun themselves on chunks of ice, and glaciers crack with thunderous booms as they calve into the sea. Rangers come on board to narrate the history and wildlife, turning the voyage into a floating classroom. Cruisers describe it as humbling, almost spiritual. One passenger wrote, "I've traveled the world, but watching Marjorie Glacier collapse into the water was the most powerful thing I've ever seen." Glacier Bay isn't flashy nightlife or duty-free shopping. It's nature in raw form. And for many, it's the single best reason to book an Alaska cruise. Number 2. Norwegian Fjords, Norway. If Alaska is raw power, the Norwegian fjords are pure serenity. Sheer cliffs rise from glassy water, waterfalls tumble into the sea, and tiny villages dot the shoreline. Sailing through Geirangerfjord or Sognefjord feels like slipping into another world, one where time slows down and the scenery does all the talking. It's not about the activities here, it's about the view from your balcony at sunrise. Many passengers say it's the only cruise where they didn't want to leave the ship because the sailing itself was the destination. TikToks of fjord sailings go viral every summer, with captions like, "This doesn't even look real." For those who make the journey, the fjords leave a mark long after disembarkation. Number 1. Bora Bora, French Polynesia. Bora Bora is the definition of paradise. The lagoon glows turquoise, coral reefs burst with color, and Mount Odomanu rises dramatically in the background. Cruisers often call it the most beautiful place they've ever seen. Period. Yes, it's remote, expensive, and only a handful of ships make the journey each year. But those who go say it spoils them for every other beach. Overwater bungalows, jet ski tours around the island, and snorkeling in crystal clear water make Bora Bora feel like a dream you don't want to wake up from. One cruiser summed it up perfectly. "Bora Bora ruined the Caribbean for me. Nothing else compares." That's why it takes the crown as the number 1 must-book cruise destination in the world. If money and distance weren't an issue, would Bora Bora be your top pick? Or would you stick with Alaska or Europe? Tell us in the comments. Closing thoughts. We've ranked the world's cruise destinations from the worst disappointments to the bucket list legends. Some, like Nassau or Freeport, leave passengers grumbling. Others, like Glacier Bay and Bora Bora, leave them speechless. The truth is, the best destination depends on who you are and what you want. Some travelers crave culture and history. For them, Rome or Barcelona will always win. Others chase natural beauty. Alaska and Norway will steal their hearts, and some just want a hammock and a cocktail. Cozumel has them covered. But one thing's certain, once you know which ports shine and which flop, you'll never waste a cruise day again. So, which destination would you rank at the very top of your personal list? Drop your answer below, and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss the next voyage.